Welcome to Express Recap. Today we are going to do a recap of the movie Dead Presidents from 1995. The movie opens in 1960s up and it introduces us to the world of Anthony Curtis. Anthony is a young African-American man living in the Bronx, New York, during the late 1960s. The film immerses us in Anthony's struggles and dreams, setting the stage for the gripping story that unfolds. The movie begins with a glimpse into Anthony's life as he sits alone in his dimly lit apartment. Surrounded by war memorabilia, he stares at a television screen broadcasting news about the Vietnam War. The room reflects a sense of disillusionment and frustration, hinting at the impact the war has had on Anthony's psyche. Then the movie goes back in time and we are shown the time when a younger Anthony, who is played by Michael Imperioli, is seen with his girlfriend, Juanita, who is played by N. Bush Wright. They share moments of joy and intimacy, but their surroundings suggest a challenging environment filled with poverty and limited opportunities, meaning even they were living in a big city, they still were struggling. But they both were ready to do anything to change their conditions, and while determined to escape their circumstances, Anthony shares his dreams of attending college and building a better life for themselves. However, as they walk the streets of their Bronx neighborhood, the harsh reality sets in. The streets are filled with poverty, crime, and racial tension, making their aspirations seem out of reach. But Anthony is not ready to give up and he is driven by the desire to improve their lives, so Anthony makes a life-altering decision. One day on their milk delivery job, the three boys start to have a conversation about what they want to do after they graduate. Skip starts joking and tells Jose that Uncle Sam is going to snatch him up as he's a recruiter's dream. After he says this, Anthony also tells them that he isn't afraid to fight in a war. The other two boys start to think that he is crazy and Deliciano because he wants to go to war, but Anthony on the other hand also sees the opportunity as a way to travel, and he also states that he wants to do something different. So he decides to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, while hoping that serving his country in the Vietnam War will provide him with a chance for a better future for him and his family. But when he tells his family, they all try to convince him that it is not a good idea because they know that him joining the Marine Corps is a bad idea. Here, it is also revealed that Anthony, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps as he also fought in a war. Anthony's father is the only one to understand his sentiment and finally approve of his decision, and a local hustler named Kirby also seems to be influential in Anthony's decision, as he's another man that fought in a war. Kirby also proves to be a great influence Anthony's life in other ways as well. After a while, the film transitions to the chaotic battleground of Vietnam, where we witness the brutalities of war through Anthony's eyes. These brutalities include the intensity of the combat, the explosions, and the loss of life. This all leave an indelible mark on Anthony's psyche, which resulted in changing him for good. He is sent to Vietnam, leaving behind his middle-class family, a pregnant girlfriend, and small-time crook Kirby, who is like a second father. Anthony's close friend Skip later joins Curtis's squad after flunking out of college, and Jose is drafted into the army. Once in the Marines, Curtis meets gung-ho Lieutenant Dugan and his wartime friend, Cleon, a religious yet deadly staff sergeant. During their tour in Vietnam as members of a force recon unit, they experience the horrors of war, losing several fellow Marines during combat. The Marines, especially Cleon, also commit atrocities, including executing enemy prisoners and beheading corpses for war trophies. One of their squad, D'Ambrosio Michael Imperioli, is the victim of the North Vietnamese and is disemboweled and castrated. While waiting for medevac, Anthony, succumbing to the request of the dying D'Ambrosio, gives the man a fatal dose of morphine. One of their squad is killed by stepping on a landmine and a night ambush ensues, with NVA troops and half of Anthony's team killed. Dugan is killed after Skip freezes up during the gunfight when he is ordered to cover him. Cleon manages to hold off the enemy long enough for Anthony and the last of the crew to escape. After a time jump, we find ourselves back in the Bronx, where Anthony returns from war. He is greeted by his family and friends, who eagerly anticipate his return. However, as he reintegrates into civilian life, it becomes clear that Anthony is struggling with the psychological and emotional scars left by his experiences in Vietnam. Anthony's attempts to reconnect with Juanita are met with tension and unease. Their once promising relationship is strained, and the weight of their shared struggles begins to take its toll. Anthony finds himself grappling with the harsh realities of life back home. Limited job opportunities and racial discrimination further compound his difficulties, pushing him towards a breaking point. The opening act of the film sets the stage for the gripping narrative that will unfold. It establishes the challenging environment in which Anthony lives, highlights the impact of the Vietnam War on his life, and hints at the desperation and anger that will ultimately drive him to make life-altering choices. The movie continues to explore the challenges faced by Anthony Curtis and his journey towards a life-altering heist. As Anthony struggles to find his place in a world filled with racial tension and limited opportunities, he reconnects with his childhood friends and delves deeper into a life of crime. Now Anthony knows the harsh realities, and after returning from the Vietnam War, Anthony Curtis, who has played Lawrence Tate, finds himself in a Bronx neighborhood, which plagued by poverty and despair. Here he witnesses racial tensions escalate, with confrontations between African American residents and the police becoming increasingly frequent. Anthony is worried about his family well-being and he wants to do something for them, but because of the condition of Bronx neighborhood he can't do much, so as he is desperate to provide for his family. Anthony reunites with his childhood friends, Kirby played by Keith David, Skip played by Chris Tucker, Jose played by Freddie Rodriguez, and Cleon played by Bokeem Woodbine. The group bonded after a long time and they all start to share their frustrations and aspirations, just so they might find a way to break free from their bleak surroundings. They brainstorm the situation and all of them together, they hatch a daring plan to rob an armored truck, which is going to be transporting money to the Federal Reserve Bank. The heist represents an opportunity for Anthony and his friends to escape their desperate circumstances and forge a path towards a better future. As they meticulously plan the heist, tensions rise within the group. Each member grapples with personal demons and questions the morality of their actions. And as for Anthony, he is fueled by the rage and disillusionment born from his experiences in Vietnam, and with the passage of time he becomes increasingly consumed by the prospect of violence as a means to achieve their goals, meaning he is willing to do anything for his goals. Meanwhile, Detective Trujillo, played by Clifton Powell, who is an ambitious and relentless police officer, he becomes aware of the group's criminal activities. He becomes determined to bring them to justice and unravels their plans, so he begins tracking their every move. Now the group faces various challenges in executing their heist. They must acquire weapons, plan their escape routes, and maintain secrecy to avoid attracting unwanted attention from both law enforcement and rival criminal elements. At the meantime, Anthony's relationship with Juanita continues to strain under the weight of their shared struggles and his involvement in the criminal activities. Juanita is completely aware of the risks involved, so she pleads with Anthony to reconsider his choices and find a legal path to improve their lives. But Anthony is determined and he is not going to back down. And as the group finalizes their plans, tensions within their community escalate. Police brutality, racism, and economic disparities ignite simmering anger and frustration among the residents. The neighborhood becomes a powder keg ready to explode, which results in adding an additional layer of danger and urgency to Anthony and his friend's mission. The movie establishes the stakes for the group as they venture deeper into the criminal underworld. The growing presence of law enforcement and the mounting pressures of their personal lives create a sense of impending doom and raise questions about the cost of their pursuit of a better life. As the film reaches its halfway point, the audience is left on the edge of their seats, eager to witness the unfolding of the heist and the consequences that await Anthony and his friends. The second 30 minutes sets the stage for an explosive climax, where choices made and loyalties tested will have far-reaching implications for the characters' lives and futures. The movie continues, and so the tension, as Anthony Curtis and his group of friends proceed with their daring heist plan. The stakes rise, relationships fracture, and the consequences of their actions become increasingly dire. With their plans in motion, Anthony and his friends face various obstacles and challenges. They gather the necessary equipment, meticulously plan their approach, and prepare for the heist of a lifetime. As the countdown to the heist begins, each member of the group grapples with their own doubts, fears, and motivations. Meanwhile, Detective Trujillo continues his relentless pursuit of the group. He unravels more clues, connecting the dots and inching closer to uncovering their identities. Trujillo becomes obsessed with bringing them to justice, fueled by his own ambition and the need to maintain order in his city. Anthony's relationship with Juanita reaches a breaking point as she pleads with him to abandon the heist and choose a different path. The tension between them escalates, straining their bond further and putting Anthony's commitment to their relationship to the test. As the day of the heist arrives, the group is gripped by a mix of excitement and trepidation. They gather their courage, mask their identities, and head out to intercept the armored truck. The atmosphere is thick with anticipation as they prepare to execute their meticulously planned operation. However, as the heist unfolds, unexpected complications arise. The group's coordination and unity are put to the test as they face unforeseen challenges. The weight of their actions and the consequences of their choices become more severe than they had anticipated. The tension reaches a boiling point when violence erupts during the heist. Many lives are lost, and the group's solidarity begins to crumble under the pressure. Each member must confront the moral implications of their actions and grapple with the devastating consequences. Simultaneously, Detective Trujillo closes in on the group, growing ever closer to identifying and capturing them. The chase becomes more intense, and the stakes for Anthony and his friends escalate to a dangerous level. The last 30 minutes of Dead Presidents delivers a gripping and emotional conclusion to the film's intense narrative. As the heist's aftermath unfolds, the characters face the devastating consequences of their choices, testing their resilience, relationships, and hopes for redemption. The heist takes a tragic turn, leaving several members of Anthony Curtis' group dead or injured. The surviving members must grapple with their guilt and the weight of their actions. Anthony, now deeply remorseful, realizes the extent of the destruction he has caused and the toll it has taken on his loved ones. Detective Trujillo, hot on the group's trail, closes in on Anthony and his friends. The relentless pursuit pushes them to their limits as they fight to evade capture and salvage what remains of their shattered lives. As the net tightens around Anthony, he seeks solace and guidance from his estranged father, who imparts valuable wisdom and encourages him to confront his mistakes. This pivotal moment forces Anthony to reflect on his choices, the consequences they have wrought, and the possibility of redemption. While the group attempts to evade capture, they also face internal fractures. Trust is shattered, and the bonds that once held them together begin to crumble. Each member grapples with their own demons, regrets, and the realization that their dreams of a better life have come at an extraordinary cost. Anthony decides that Jose's cut goes to his wife Marisol and their kids, and Delilah's cut goes to the poor children on Christmas. Kirby wants to kill Cleon before he gets arrested and rats them out. Anthony, who wants no more bloodshed, tells Kirby he'll take care of it, but Cleon, after being arrested, gives up the other thieves as part of a plea bargain. NYPD officers storm Skip's apartment to find that he has died of a heroin overdose. As Kirby and Anthony prepare to leave, the country police show up, and Kirby tells Anthony to run, fighting off the officers with the pool sticks, but Anthony is cornered and he surrenders. In a final desperate bid for survival and a chance at redemption, Anthony confronts Detective Trujillo, resulting in a tense standoff. Their encounter becomes a symbolic clash between the systemic injustices that have plagued Anthony's life and his determination to break free from their grip. In a heart-wrenching and emotionally charged climax, the characters are forced to confront their fates. Lives are forever changed as they grapple with the profound impact of their choices and the legacy they leave behind. The movie offers a searing commentary on the cyclical nature of poverty, systemic racism, and the far-reaching consequences of violence. Through its raw and powerful storytelling, the film delves deep into the human experience, exploring themes of redemption, sacrifice, and the search for meaning in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the last 30 minutes of the film come to a close, Anthony Curtis stands at a crossroads. His choices have led him down a path of destruction and despair, but he is presented with an opportunity for redemption. The audience is left to ponder the complexities of the human condition and the profound impact that choices, circumstance, and systemic injustice can have on an individual's life. Dead Presidents concludes with a poignant and thought-provoking ending, leaving viewers with a lasting impression of the film's themes and the indomitable spirit of those who fight against a society stacked against them. In court, Anthony is tried, convicted, and sent to prison for 15 years to life. Anthony furiously berates the judge, a war veteran himself, who goes so far as to call him a disgrace to any person who put on uniform and served his country. Upon receiving his sentence, Anthony gets angry and throws a chair at the judge. The film ends as Anthony boards a prison bus.